Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the MMA Corner Wrap-Up Shows. Tonight, we give you our thoughts and breakdowns on what was Bellator 121 Heidlich versus Linz. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Ballabomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. Ballabomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode is powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Get you some. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my co-host for the evening, Jason Shelkey. Oh, well, fight fans, going into tonight's card, nobody thought that Bellator was going to steal the year with this show. When you just looked at it from top to bottom, it was by no means intended to be their best card of the year, but it was another solid event. And not only that, we had the start of the light heavyweight tournament, and there were some decent fights going on tonight in the light heavyweight tournament, and I am looking forward to how it continues to play out. So definitely a good start to the season for Bellator, but again, by no means did they expect it to be their best card of the year. It was not what they had intended tonight's show to be. But again, it was a solid night of fights. We did have some exciting knockouts from top to bottom on the prelims. Steve Garcia's knockout of Cody Walker, which they also aired during the main card, was a heck of a knockout. Then we had some great submissions, and then again, it was probably a B-minus card, and for free on Friday night, you can't really ask for any more than that. Jason, give us your thoughts on the card.
Fight fans, I really enjoyed this card. Like Josh mentioned, it wasn't the most exciting card top to bottom. However, we did get two fights to determine who's going to move on in the light heavyweight division. We got to see Sokuchu come back and do what he was supposed to do. And then we had the freak fight, which Bellator 100% embraced when they had Eric Prindle and Josh Thompson. Whenever in the promo they have the nut shot heard around the world. And then, so it was, for me, it was really cool to see a promotion embrace the fact that they have, kind of a gimmicky fight on their card instead of trying to hype it up into something it isn't. They took it, they owned it, they ran with it, and I thought it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I have to agree. And then you had whatever James Thompson was saying after the fight. And granted, I know enough English people that I caught some of it, but I'll be honest, a lot of it I didn't get. But the parts that I did catch, I was certainly laughing. I mean, oh my God, this guy's a nut job. Seriously, the things that were coming out of his mouth was hilarious. And so I was definitely laughing. My wife was looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? But he was cracking me up. And then you had, Dungeons and Dragons and rolling 20s and coming out with the perfect outcome and this and that and, Harry Potter's magical, mystical world. It was a whole there was some good humor to go along with everything else. And to be real honest, as a journalist and then as a fight fan, to see fighters actually open up about personal stuff and try and lighten things up, I personally think is a good thing. I think it helps their into a fight, trying to take the edge off, so to speak. So no, I like hearing them do that kind of stuff and talk about being a Dungeon and Dragon geek and James Thompson really was cracking me up with his nonsense. All right. What do you say, Jason? Do we get right into it?
Hey, I just want to piggyback on one thing that you brought up really quick about, talk about Dungeons and Dragons and all this other stuff, getting to know the fighters personally. I think that helps Bellator as they move forward to, take these people or these fighters that that the mainstream fans may not have heard of and giving them, some insight into who they are as a person to get that engagement with between the audience and the fighter. So I also think that that's another positive of them coming out, the fighters coming out talking about their hobbies, their interests, instead of just, that typical I'm going to go out there, I'm going to smash him, I've trained, I'm in the best shape of my life, So seeing him talk about Dungeons and Dragons, I thought that was really cool, even though, we'll get into that fight later on. Yeah, it kind of, it made me engage with them on a different level than one would usually engage with, be engaged by a fighter's pre-fight talk.
No, after smart for business. It's not like one of the major sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, even soccer, if that's your thing. Each one of these sports has hometown teams, and you live in Denver, you're a Broncos fan. You live in Washington, in Seattle area, whatnot, you're a Seahawks fan. If you live in Pittsburgh, you're a Steelers fan, so on and so forth. You don't have that in MMA. Yes, you have the guys that train in your hometown and whatnot, but the main thing is fans follow fighters that they can relate to, people that not only excite them inside the cage, but people they can relate to, someone who's the average Joe just like them, used to work construction just like they do now. Whatever the tie may be, that's what puts butts in the seats. That's what gets people buying your merchandise. That's what gets people buying your pay-per-views when you're set to fight. So yeah, it's smart business. It's a good thing to do, and kudos. But I don't think you rolled a 20. I could be wrong. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I was way back 30 years ago when I was a wee little kid, but I'm pushing 40 now, and no Dungeons and Dragons for me. So correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe he did roll a 20, but from
He
what
rolled
I
a
saw,
one.
I don't think so.
He definitely rolled a one.
Oh one, oh one. All right.
No, the guys actually went and flew off the table, and they don't know what he rolled. So
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. What do you say? Should we get started? First fight,
do it.
Valavicius and Eduardo. Why don't you give us your thoughts? I'll jump in afterwards.
I thought I was really entertained by this fight. I mean, I thought it was a really good back and forth battle. Both these guys are banging. Eduardus had that big cut above his eye. I mean, they were both completely busted up towards the end of the fight. Actually, no, it was Eduardo that was really cut up bad, and um, that I can't even pronounce his last name. I'm sorry, but he had it looked like he had a broken nose at the end of the fight as well. So, I mean, the guys, they went out there, they put their hearts on the line. It was a really close fight. It was a good fight if you're like, just wanting to see a brawl. Um, Not too much technical fighting was going on, but it was just one of those fun fights to watch. I enjoyed it. I like violence, and that's what we saw for 3 rounds. And so and I think the split decision was deserving because I could see that fight going either way depending on how you scored that second round. And so I have no complaints with the decision. Or no, wait, no, yeah. I have no complaints either way.
No, neither do I. And to be real honest, this is one of those fights where if nobody won or nobody lost, if they scored a draw, I'd be just fine with it. Uh, You're absolutely right. There was no technical striking. There was no fundamental anything across the board. These were just two dudes going out there and fighting. And when you think about it, way back in the day when this sport first started, that's what people did. Not too. I mean, people knew about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and whatnot, but not too many people. Ken Shamrock even stated immediately after he lost to Hoist that he had never seen anything like that. He'd never trained anything like that. People trained bare knuckle boxing and that kind of stuff. And so this was a throwback fight. It was two dudes who aren't technically sound in any aspect, just going out there banging. And to be honest, it was one of the most exciting fights on the card, if not the most exciting fight on the card. When this fight was over, I was actually thinking, yeah, I could watch 2 more rounds of these guys beat each other up. Not that they could take any more, because they were both lit up and honestly, not that they will admit to it, but and in the middle of that third round, every one of those punches hurt. You know, his nose was lit up. That cut was huge. Those punches hurt. So they probably didn't want to go 2 more rounds. But again, as a fan, I certainly would have loved to see 2 more rounds. As far as the split decision goes, fight could have gone either way. It was one of those fights that really, depending on how you look at things, it could have gone either way. And that's the sign of a great fight. And so I will leave it at that. Let's move on. Uh, Sokaju versus Devaney. I mean, I don't know what to say about Sokaju. If you listen to Joe Rogan talk about Sokaju, he's always the guy that tears it apart in the gym. That, you know, no one wants to train with him because he's that tough. He's just brutal when it comes to gym time, and then when he actually comes to fight time, he's just not been able to perform. Now, I have to be honest. I don't know if that's the case because I've never been in Sokaju's gym. I've never watched a guy train. I don't know firsthand, but I will say this: Joe Rogan's not the only person to say that. I actually have been told that by guys in his gym as well, that he is a beast. Tonight, he looked good. I mean, you know, honestly, is Terry Devaney a top level opponent? No, but it was a good victory for Sokaju, and it gives him something to build on. You know, he just signed with Bellator a couple of weeks ago, took this fight on relatively short notice. Now, again, we've interviewed him for the site numerous times, and he's a guy who says that he's always training and always in shape. So maybe it wasn't that big of a deal to him, but again, stepping in on short notice, he comes in, he gets the submission. You know, what else is there to say, Jason?
Well, number one, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I won't want to be the first submission victory on Sokaju's record. Because he is not a submission fighter. He is someone that's going to go out there and bang and swing away. Now, I did see Sokaju in his fourth fight when he fought out in Pride 33, and in that fight against Little Nog, he was such an underdog that no sports books were taking bets on that fight. I mean, that's how big the spread was. I tried MGM Grand, I tried Caesars. None of the books on the strip and any of the major sports books were taking bets on this fight. And he came out, and of course, he shocked the world and got put on the map by knocking out Little Nog and then knocking out Ricardo Rona. And after that, everything kind of went into this downhill slide where he was just winning these freak matches against like Jan Norte and people like that, Bob Sapp, and that's pretty much been his career since then. He got a chance in the UFC, and he didn't fare well against against who the UFC put in front of him, and he's been bouncing back and forth. He fought in shark fights, against Houston Alexander, and he just never really lived up to his full potential. He's 30 years old now, and maybe he had the right opponent in front of him for him to get that first submission victory, or maybe he's turning everything around and he's finally taking what he has been able to do in the gyms. I've heard the same thing as you, that in the gym the guy's just an animal, he's unstoppable, but there's something that flips in his brain whenever he goes into an actual fight. So maybe, who knows, maybe this is a turning point for Sokoudjou. Maybe going, signing with Bellator, getting in this light heavyweight tournament will be a good thing. Or maybe he may be next for Tito Ortiz, who knows. But yeah, I mean, after everything he's been through, it's good to see him get this victory in the way he did, and I'll be interested to see where Bellator takes this, because I see a couple different angles that they can use to capitalize on this. Whether it be in the next season light heavyweight tournament, or like I mentioned, fight with Tito Ortiz.
Honestly, the fight with Tito Ortiz is probably the thing that'll make the most sense. Tito and Rampage isn't going to happen. I just don't see Rampage signing up for that fight. He doesn't believe that Tito will actually show up. So there's not a whole lot of options. So yeah, I certainly think that fight would make sense. Now, Sokoudjou was on the 2-fight losing streak when Bellator signed him, which was kind of surprising. They usually don't sign people are on the losing streak. However, They brought Sokiju in. He gets the victory. But he's just been the guy, he wins 2 fights, loses 2 fights, wins 3 fights, loses 3 fights. That's just really the guy he is. So am I expecting big things from him in Bellator? Do I exciting fights in Bellator? Yeah, because he's even in defeat, he's usually an exciting fighter. He doesn't, come in there and cower. He always comes in there to throw punches, throw kicks, be dynamic, and do the things that he does. So I certainly expect him to be an exciting fighter for Bellator, but do I expect him to be wearing Bellator gold anytime soon? Absolutely not. Uh, but again, I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe he's completely put his career together, and he's about to revamp and show the world what everyone thought he was going to be, 5-6 years ago. So, all right. With that being said, let's move right along. I'll let you start this one off. James the Mouth Thompson versus Eric Prindle.
Oh, this fight was awesome. I'm so happy that Bellator just played this off as the freak show that everybody knew it was going to be. With the whole intro with the T-Rex and I got to give a shout out to Trey Downey. He said, "Who doesn't like T-Rex? Meteors don't like T-Rex." Anyway, and them talking about the nut shot that Eric Prindle took and the returning axe kick to the balls in the rematch. It was just that 3-minute promo was probably one of the most awesome things I've seen in MMA ever, because there was a promotion that was actually embracing it. Because if this fight was in the UFC, they'd be clamoring that the winner of this fight could be a big player in the heavyweight division. Bellator was like, no, this is what it is. James Thompson, he just went out there. He's a wily veteran. He knew what he needed to do to win the fight, got the fight to the ground, beat the living crap out of him. And then that post-fight rant, I did not understand anything he was saying. I think he called out somebody and asked for a testicle transplant or something like that. It's the only thing I could understand. And something about that was a joke, when I don't think anybody knew what the joke was because they couldn't understand what he was saying. So, but I loved it for what it was. It was one of those moments in MMA where you just gotta sit back and not take everything so seriously for once, and just enjoy it for what it is, and embrace it, and just go with it. And personally, I loved it. I was highly entertained, and I'm not saying I want to see this all the time, but this was definitely a breath of fresh air into the current MMA landscape.
Yeah, I thought there was good humor in it. I thought they handled it very well. Yeah, the promos that they cut and all of that kind of stuff. There's not a whole lot of ways that you can go with that kind of stuff, and I thought they did it very well. Now, with that being said, Eric Prindle is 1-5 since that groin kick that exploded his testicle. That happened at Bellator 59 against Thiago Santos. Since then, he lost to Cole Conrad. Then he lost to Thiago Santos. Got a victory over Vince Lucero. Lost to Peter Graham. Lost to Javi Ayala, and then lost tonight to James Thompson. I don't know if that kick, took it all out of Eric Prindle, but something's happened to him. He's not the same fighter. I don't want to say that he's turned into a can, but he kind of has, and he's at 8-6-1 right now. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got to go back to the drawing board. But with that being said, I do think that James Thompson, I'm not going to say he looked great, because Prindle basically wilted under the pressure there. But, James Thompson, he looks like a beast. He looks like a guy that could compete in Bellator's heavyweight division. And so I know he called out Czech Congo. That's a fight that I wouldn't mind seeing. Is he ready for a heavyweight title shot? Maybe, but I want to see him fight a couple more times first. All right. Moving right along to what was the main event, Felipe Lins versus Austin Hedge. Um, well, Jason, why don't you start us off on this one?
Felipe Lins
Roll us a
is
20.
what's that?
I said, roll us a 20.
It wasn't the 20 was Felipe Lins, man. He looked like an absolute animal. I mean, everybody in this light heavyweight tournament needs to be scared of this guy. I mean, he showed it. He's got tremendous punching power. He's got great submissions, and he just this fight wasn't even competitive if we're being dead honest here. Um, and Austin, the D&D guy, like we said, man, he threw the one. And Felipe, he threw 320s in a row. It was a one-sided beating, and everybody in this tournament needs to keep their eyes on Felipe Lins because I'm going to say it right now, he is going to win this tournament. He's going to win it in incredibly dominant fashion, and yeah, um, yeah, whoever the light heavyweight champion is at that point in time, whenever his time comes, they need to be worried about this guy. I'm really expecting big things from him. So I call my shot. I'm calling him to win the tournament right now. And, depending on who the champion is, whenever he gets his call, make the prediction then. But, yeah, he looked beast-like tonight.
Yeah, I like Felipe. I think this kid's got a lot of skills, a lot of potential, a lot of talent. He's certainly one of the up and coming fighters that Bellator has. Now, with that being said, he's still pretty raw. Uh, he's 9-0. I think he certainly needs some more experience. He did look great tonight, but let's be honest. And Hedledge, first off, probably be fighting at 185 pounds and not at light heavyweight. He certainly didn't have the size to deal with Felipe's reach. I mean, Felipe was tagging him at will from the outside, and then when he decided to go for the takedown, he just threw him around like a rag doll. And then schooled him. And when they were sitting on the cage, Austin was looking to the ref to break him up, and Felipe was just waiting for Austin to get complacent and do something stupid, and that's exactly what he did. And to finish a rear naked choke with it across the chin like that, I will tell you two things. First off, it takes great strength, both in your upper body to get that squeeze on the chin the way he did with his bicep. And second, you got to have that. You got to have the body lock, the body triangle, and get a good squeeze in on that. Because if you really watch the replay, he completely took all the wind out of him, took all of his air out of him. Kind of like what a anaconda will do to you. He was completely sucked in, couldn't do anything, and yeah, it was forced to tap out. I agree with you, Jason. I certainly think Felipe is probably the front runner to win this tournament. But the one thing I will say about Bellator tournaments is the front runner very rarely is actually the guy who pulls it off. I'm not saying that Felipe is going to get upset because I don't think he will. I do think he's going to win the tournament. But this tournament has been proven over the years that it's not as easy as people think it is. So I do look forward to seeing how it plays out. But I definitely want to see more of Felipe and see how this guy progresses. Jason, final thoughts on tonight's Bellator 121.
Well, first off, I'm actually somewhat excited to see what Bellator is going to do with Sokaju because he looked really good tonight against his opponent. So I really want to see if they're going to put him in a tournament, if they're going to put him in a big fight on possibly their next pay-per-view, or however they decide to use him. I'm interested to see how they use him. Like I said, these James Thompson versus Eric Prindle type fights and the promos, it's really it was really refreshing. I hope to see it again, but not like really soon, because if you try to do the same thing over and over and over, you're going to become the laughingstock of MMA. But once in a while, it's cool. Let's get Kimbo Slice back in there. Let's have him fight James Thompson next if you want a fun fight. And then yeah, Felipe Lins, by far the most impressive fighter of the night. But like you said, with these Bellator tournaments, you never know what's going to happen. But as of right now, he definitely he out of the four fighters that moved on to the next round tonight, he was definitely the most impressive one, hands down, out of the whole crop. And by far, he is the front runner, and I think it's his tournament to lose.
I have to agree with you on that. I think Felipe Lins right now is the class of this light heavyweight tournament, and barring injury or something stupid, I do think that he is certainly going to get the victory. So Bellator brought us some exciting knockouts, brought us some exciting submissions, brought us some great jokes, kept us laughing. A lot of good things from tonight's event. Bellator put on another solid show again. Not the greatest show that they've done this year, and definitely not the greatest show they're going to do the second half of this year. But it was a solid B minus card. Again, as a journalist, as a fight fan, always pleased with the fights that Bellator gives us. They certainly continue to bring quality fights. Now, everyone might be the biggest names out there. We had a couple guys making debuts, this, that, and the other, but they all came to fight. Exciting night to fight. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow night to recap UFC Fight Night 42, so definitely make sure that you tune in immediately following the event. We will recap it leading into the post-fight press conference. That's going to do it for us tonight. As always, this episode was brought to you by Battlebomb, the only pain reliever with knockout power. www.battlebomb.com. Definitely go check them out. Audio for tonight's episode was powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Get you some. I love these things. They're awesome. I am Josh Davis for Jason Shelkey. Keep living the MMA corner lifestyle. Peace out, fellas.